So here is a review of using a couple of the Photoshop lasso tools. When you press and hold the lasso, you have the option between the plain old lasso, as I call it, the polygonal lasso, and the magnetic lasso. Now let me first just differentiate between these. The lasso tool is a tool that allows you to basically make any kind of closed-in shape, and then it'll seal that off, and that will become your selection. So it's just kind of free form. You know, I can click around it and make a big circle, or I can, click in a rectangular sort of area and make kind of a rectangle. And that's pretty much the lasso. Your lasso has an add and a subtract mode, and all of the lassos do. So that's important to note. I usually keep mine on add to selection, and that means that if I put in a little bit of the stuff here, and then I want to add in more, I can keep adding into it. And I can just add a little bit in at a time. Subtract from selection is the next button, and that lets me get rid of parts of my selection. So if there's a part I don't need, I can take that little chunk out, like so. And notice you don't have to go all the way around. If you go like kind of close, it'll seal off the rest. So that's the lasso, and on your lasso you'll notice when I float it around there's a minus sign if I'm on subtract, and there is a plus sign if I'm on add to selection. Now if I switch to a different lasso, I'm going to go ahead and deselect or Control D to make the marching ants go away. I'm going to click on the lasso tool and hold to get the Polygonal Lasso tool. The Polygonal Lasso tool is useful for making things that have straight edges. So in our example here, I'm going to rebuild this bottom part of the balloon using the Polygonal Lasso because it doesn't really have good defined edges. Now the way your Polygonal Lasso works is you click, and that puts down an anchor point. And then when you move your mouse around, it's almost as if a rubber band is connected to your little anchor point. So think in terms of a bulletin board and like a thumbtack. So I put a thumbtack down, and then it's like there's a rubber band to stretch to wherever I put that next thumbtack. And then you click to put down that next thumbtack, and click again to put down another. And then if you wanted to seal it off, in the case of making a triangle, you get really close to where you began and you'll see a little circle appear. And when you click to close up, you'll get your actual selection. And again, that lasso, I like to keep it on add to selection. If you click on the first one, it's going to get rid of this selection instead of add to it. So if I add to selection, then I can come down here, say I'm drawing like an arrow, and just continue on with it. And if you can't get all the way back, like if you can't find exactly where, well that one did, if you can't find exactly where your starting point is to get that little circle, you can get kind of close to it and just double click your mouse, and that will do it. Okay, so that's that. And if for some reason you accidentally somehow click off of it or get it deselected, there is a select and reselect button. If you immediately go there, you can reselect if you accidentally Control D and deselect. Of course, you can back up in your history too. All right, so I'm going to deselect here, and then I'm going to keep my magnetic lasso or my Polygon Lasso on add to selection, and I'm going to select here. Now, another thing to note, when you're using this, I'm going to go down here and start on the corner. You click, you let go. You click, you let go. You click, you let go, you click, you let go. And then you've got to just follow the pattern. So here I can't really tell, and I'm zoomed up 700%, but I'm going to pretend that, there's little people here. So I'm going to go up a little bit, over a little bit, up a little bit, over a little bit, up a little bit, over a little bit, and so forth. All right, then we kind of have to build these little strings here, even though we can't really 100% see them. So I'm just going to kind of guess where I want them to be. That's good enough. And then I'll make another one coming down. Again, that's a little bigger than it probably needs to be, but that's okay. Okay, then I'm going to follow the edge of this. Click, 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 click. Build up this side. So up, click, and then here, click. Come back down and click. And then let's go down this edge a little bit. And again, nobody really knows what this looked like before, so they're not going to 100% know where the edges are. All right, now I'm going down to the very last part. I need to seal it up. So I'm going to get right there close, the little circle appears, and I can click, and there we go. Now notice my lasso is still on plus, so I can continue to add in more areas of this. If I needed to get rid of an area, while you're on plus, you can hold down the Alt key, and while you're holding down Alt, your Polygon Lasso switches to a minus lasso. So say I want to get rid of this little section here, I can kind of do that and then double click when I get close to the beginning point and then get that part out of there. And then when I let go of Alt, it goes back to being a plus lasso. And then say I could go in here and start adding in these other parts. But I'm not going to add in those other parts using the Polygon Lasso because I want to demonstrate the magnetic lasso. So the magnetic lasso, if you click and hold, is kind of different because you go around the edges of something and it kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. Like Photoshop sends out their little elves and the little elves try to find the edges for you. So you just have to kind of be close, okay? Now, I strongly encourage you to get used to my workflow on this. I'm not going to Control D, and I'm going to make sure I'm on Add to Selection here so I don't lose the basket on the bottom. I'm going to scroll up here to the top. Now, when you're zoomed up to this level, it gets really hard to use the magnetic lasso. Not hard because you need to be zoomed up, but because you're zoomed up, sometimes your lasso can go crazy. I'll give you an example. So with this lasso, if I click it down to start a point, and then I start wiggling my mouse, and I'm not clicking and dragging. I'm not touching my mouse right now. My hands are in the air. I'm just dragging now, okay? It tries to find the edges, and it's not bad. It's jumping down there. But then I get to the end, and what some students try to do is they try to just like scoot the mouse over there and let the mouse make the window move over. That's a bad idea, because if I start doing that, this happens. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm way out here too far. And then I'm like trying to fix it, and it's just like, see what's happening? Now everything's messed up. So another trick, and this works with the Polygon Lasso too, is you can press backspace and just move your mouse back to where it needs to be. And just keep hitting backspace till it gets back to before you messed up. Now when you're using this magnetic lasso and it puts down points for you, also know you can force a point. So like up here, maybe where this blue is, it's not putting a point down, and maybe I want it to, so I'm just going to click. So you can force a point at any time. And to be honest, I always force a point if there's a really pointy area, okay? All right, now, instead of wiggling my lasso and having to backspace 5 million times, here's what you should do when you come to these areas where you've run out of room. You keep your mouse still, you press the space bar key at the bottom of your keyboard, and your mouse changes to a hand. That's a hand tool. Now, while your mouse is a hand, just click. So I'm holding my space bar and I'm holding my mouse button right now. And I'm lifting up to put this at the top, okay? You want to keep that hand in the same spot. Don't move it. And then let go of that space bar. And when you do, it turns back to the lasso, and then you can keep just dragging around. All right, so I'm out of room again. What am I going to do? I'm going to hold down space bar. The hand appears. I'm going to drag up to the top of my document. I'm going to let go of space bar, and it switches back to my magnetic lasso. And then again, I'm just dragging along the side here. Now, there's kind of a corner here, so I'm going to click. I'm going to keep going. This is kind of a corner, so I'm going to click. Keep going around the edges here. Kind of a corner, so I'm going to click, and I'm running out of room. So pressing space bar to get the hand tool, scooting it over to give myself a whole bunch of room, and then letting go of the space bar and continuing up the edge. Again, kind of a corner right here, so I'm going to click, and then I'm going to continue around. Now, if it does mess up, like you go out here or something, it sets down a point, again, just press backspace, but also move your mouse backwards. All right, and then we keep going. I'm getting close to the top edge, so we're going to hold down space bar. There we go, and continuing. And then when you get up to this corner, hold down the space bar, switch to the hand, and pull up. And you just basically repeat this process. If it gets messy like that, backspace, move your mouse back, force a point if you need to, if it doesn't seem to want to go where you want, and then keep going. Backspace if it doesn't work, keep going. All right, I need my hand, so I'm going to press space bar. We're almost back up to the top now, so I'm going to put my hand right back over the dot and continue over, and then seal it back off. Get it right to the top, get the circle, click, and then you have your selection. Now I'm going to press Control-1 to zoom out to where I can see everything, and then I can press my Refine Edge. It's a pretty good selection. Let me check it on black. Not too bad. There's some little areas that if I'm zoomed up I might want to take a look at. So I'm just going to hit OK. I'm going to take my magnifying glass, or you can just press Control plus over and over again to zoom up. Control minus does the opposite. And again, just grab that hand tool by pressing spacebar. And just kind of work your way around and see if there's anything that needs to be fixed. So maybe this little spot right here. So I'm going to zoom up, and then I can fix it with whatever. I'm just going to use a plain lasso. So there's plain lasso on plus. Just going to kind of swoop this little edge in there, like so. All right, Control 1, put it back out, and that looks good. And then, of course, you would refine your edge. You would press OK, undock, move tool, and drag it over. So there you go. That's a review of the magnetic lasso and the polygon lasso in Photoshop.